Hey everyone, today I'm going to talk about the impact of World War II on the United States. So, like usual, you're probably tired of me saying this, but like usual, I'm not going to go into the specific battles of the war. Instead, we're going to talk about the impact of the war, so the effect of the war afterwards. By the end of World War II, the United States had 295,000 people die in the war and 671,801 wounded. That's a lot, but in comparison to the Soviet Union's 18 million dead, it doesn't seem so bad. Also, the war is what really ends the Great Depression. We talked about how the New Deal helped provide relief, but it doesn't fix the economy. The war does, because they needed to switch the economy to producing a ton of weapons and supplies really fast, which means there were plenty of jobs for people. In 1939, before the US enters the war, the budget was $9 billion. But by the end of the war, the budget is $100 billion. The national debt definitely increases, but so do people's financial well-being. Women also gained more opportunities during the war, just like they did in World War I. About 216,000 women joined the armed forces in non-combat roles. About 6 million women gained jobs in the factories as the men were off fighting during the war. The government had even set up about 3,000 new daycares to watch their children while they worked. When the war ended, some actually continued to work, although most did go back into the home to take care of their families. African Americans were also greatly impacted by World War II. About 1.6 million left the South in search of jobs, and they often found discrimination in these places, unfortunately. So this led to A. Philip Randolph threatening to lead a huge march on Washington to demand equal opportunity for African Americans in defense industry jobs or war jobs and in the armed forces. This led to Roosevelt passing Executive Order 8802, which banned discrimination in defense industry jobs, so jobs that the government was paying people to do. And African Americans were also drafted into the military, although they were forced to serve in segregated units. But they were recognized for their brilliant efforts during the war later on, like the Tuskegee Airmen, for example. But the war mostly helped African Americans strengthen their fight for equal rights. They began to support the Double V campaign, which stood for victory over the dictators abroad and victory over racism at home. During this time, membership in the NAACP increased significantly. Japanese Americans were also significantly influenced by the war because of suspicions that Japanese Americans were spies for the Japanese. Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066, and this led to Japanese Americans living on the West Coast being sent to relocation centers and internment camps. Although some also did fight in their own segregated units in World War II, like the 442nd Regiment, who is famous for their efforts in the war, this does impact Japanese Americans, especially in the region of where we go to school and work. Another impact of the war is that Roosevelt is actually elected to a third and then a fourth term, which breaks away from the tradition of the two-term limits that had started with George Washington. They do change the Constitution to only allow 2 terms after Roosevelt passes away, but he is somebody who serves more than 2 terms. And after the war, the men came home and many women left their jobs to go back into their traditional roles in the home. This led to a lot of new babies being born. People born during this time period are called baby boomers because there was a huge boom in the amount of babies being born. Makes sense. When these men returned home, the government was worried there wouldn't be enough jobs for them. I mean, there were like 15 million veterans returning from the war, so they decided to pass the GI Bill of Rights, or something just called the GI Bill, which paid for former soldiers to go to college. The idea was to keep them out of the factories and send them to school instead. The act also helped provide home loans for these young men. This act was super helpful in later stimulating the economy because the education level of these men went up, and they later took these new skills into the workforce. The last thing I want to mention that would definitely be good to mention in an essay or a DBQ or short answer question is that after World War II, the United States will never again go back to isolationism. And we're talking about all the way up to our time, or at least until the time I'm recording this video. I can't predict the future. But from here on out, the US will be pretty involved in world affairs and really comes out of World War II as considered to be a superpower and almost sees themselves as like a world police force to some extent. So World War II has a huge impact on the United States in both domestic policies and foreign policies. Okay, today's practice question is actually a short answer question surrounding this image that you can see here. It is a poster that has "United We Win" on it. There are 3 specific tasks that this is asking you to do. So go ahead and pause here. Think about how you would answer these short answer questions. You don't necessarily have to write it down, but think about how you would respond to it, and then check out the answers or the potential responses in the video description below. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and happy studying. We are so close to the end. Can you guys feel it?